Welcome to Operation Move podcast. It's as I always feared that if I skipped 1 week, 1 week would turn into two, and that's exactly what happened. But my computer is now working, and I had to completely wipe the hard drive. And it's funny because, like I said, delete, and in like 5 seconds, like everything was deleted. And I'm like, how can you be deleting, like 500 gigs of data in 2 seconds? It's extremely disturbing. But everything was backed up twice, so it was fine. So it's nice to have everything working again. And this week, internet willing, this will also be uploaded as a video. I'll see if I can get that happening. I always forget how big videos are. So last time I did one and the video was like 20 minutes and it was like 2 gigabytes of data, and my internet was like, no, we're not going to upload that. So hopefully we'll be playing a bit more nice this week. So this week I thought that I would talk a little bit about, there's this joke about running is that it's the most expensive, cheapest sport, because the idea being that you don't need anything to go for a run, you just go run. But for a sport that doesn't need anything, you certainly need a lot of stuff. So as somebody who has been a shopping enabler for a long time and has certainly accumulated more gear than I could possibly poke a stick at, I thought I could go through some of the easiest ways to save money, because there are things where I think that it probably doesn't matter or you could skip, and there are things that if you've got a bit of money to invest that I would definitely invest in. So I guess what those two things are sports bra and running shoes. And the probably thing about running shoes is there's no real evidence that any of the actual, sort of like technology with running shoes makes any difference at all. It really is just about what's comfortable. But there are some things that are going to help you find things that are going to make you comfortable, like figuring out whether you are a neutral runner or you pronate and you need stability shoes. For me, I am neutral, so you put me in a stability shoe and I'm going to be in a world of pain in about 5K. So it's a really obvious thing, and it helps sort of cut down what kind of shoes I'm looking at by knowing that what I like to run in is shoes with low heel toe drop, which is the difference between the height of your heel and the height of your toe in the shoe. So for me, most of my shoes are around the 0 to 4 or 5 millimeter drop, where your traditional running shoes are about 12 millimeters. So it's a big difference. And so that just sort of helps me when I'm looking at, like that looks, those are pretty colors. That looks nice. I could then kind of look at it, and if it says like 10 millimeters, I'll be like, I can't wear that shoe. So it kind of stops me from buying things from time to time. So that's sort of one way you can sort of avoid some of the decisions you don't need to make. But then also with running shoes, it's worthwhile getting last season's stock rather than this season. For me, at the moment, on a usual week, I would run anywhere in between 70 to 90 kilometers, I guess. And generally speaking, you need to replace shoes usually mine need to be replaced about every 600. And when I'm running that much, even that's spread across several shoes, this is where buying more shoes makes it more efficient. That's my theory anyway. But still, I go through shoes relatively quickly. So if I am, like, say for example, the main tempo race, and if I'm doing like interval shoe that I wear at the moment is the Hoka Clayton. It retails for $250, and if I was having to pay that every 600 kilometers, and even, it's probably something that I am having to replace probably every 3 to 4 months. So, it just adds up. But if I don't get this season's Claytons, if I get last season's, then all of a sudden it's half the price. So that is something to definitely look at shoes when they go on sale, clearing out old stock. Also, with I tend to get things through Runners Warehouse because they have a shoe guarantee. So if you buy some shoes and it doesn't work out within 30 days, you can send them back. So if you are like me and you are living somewhere where it's kind of hard to get to, like a running shoe shop, then sort of online shopping is a lot easier. But it's nice having that sort of thing. If something doesn't work out, that you can send them back. So something like that is quite handy. You can also, for running bras and stuff like that, also going for last season stock can also help you. So they do that on Amazon quite a bit, so you check that out. You'll also find on sites like Lululemon, they'll have like We Made Too Much, where they put things on clearance, or like Wiggle often have good deals with things from the previous season. So they're all ways that you can save money, so you're not paying full price for something that you're actually going to probably go through and use quite regularly. Probably more so with shoes than with bras, but if that is where you're going to spend your money, that's definitely where I'd spend it. The other thing is probably with, if you are interested in entering events, there is a huge difference between early bird and not early bird prices. So it's worthwhile to go through the running calendar, check out what's coming up and register for early bird when it becomes available, rather than waiting till closer to the date. Another thing you can do for probably less so for shoes but for running clothes, is there are lots of buy swap sell groups on Facebook, which are really helpful for picking up a bargain. People take really good care of running clothes, so you can get something secondhand that's in great condition and is usually half of the price what you would pay for something new. So that's also another way that you can get something that's going to be useful, like pockets. Anything with pockets is going to be useful. But you're not having to pay loads of money. And also, when you are no longer using something, then you can pop it on there and you can sell it, or you can swap with someone, or do a combination of those things, so you're not consistently having to buy things new. And one of the cool things about Strava is, or I think they do it on Garmin Connect as well, and although I have Garmin Connect, so it feeds into Strava, but Strava's the main app that I use, you can track your shoes on there. So I will have a thing and I'll be able to go in and see how many kilometers each pair of shoes has done. So the other day, after I'd gone for a run, and I just felt like shoes felt okay, but I thought they probably are close to needing replacing. And it's hard to explain what the feeling is, but I guess it's sort of just it just feels a little bit harder than what it should. And generally that feeling is right. I went to look at the log on Strava, and it said I'd done 460 Ks in them. So they're pretty close to needing to be replaced. And so something like that is going to help you keep track of things, and then you can kind of also keep track of multiple pairs of shoes. So, for me, I've got the probably my easy running shoes are the Ultra Torrens and the Hoka Cliftons, and then I have my speed and tempo running shoe, which is the Clayton at the moment. And then I'm experimenting with a race interval shoe, which is the Hoka Tracer, and just as you do 3 weeks or 2.5 weeks before a race. Hasn't arrived yet. But generally speaking, with that kind of thing, somebody asked me about that the other day actually, is how, when is it too close? I guess it depends on the length of your event, because obviously if you're doing like a 5 or a 10K, it's pretty easy to run 5 or 10Ks in them beforehand and see how they feel. Longer distances, you'll probably be less likely to getting up to that distance before the actual race. So generally I find for the half marathon or the marathon, I'm not going to know how the shoes go until I get to 16K. So I would want it to be far enough away from the race that I would have the 16K run in the scope of my plan to test them out. In terms of saving money, another thing that you could check out, which I've used a little bit, is the Running Heroes app. Basically, you get rewards based on the amount of the distance you go. So you can enter challenges to potentially win stuff, but you can also just use your points to get discounts on things. So the other day I downloaded a thing to get, like 15% off at Running Warehouse. I think they also had, sort of like 20% off skins, like a whole range of brands that you would know. And if you are going to be buying something like that anyway, you might as well get a discount on it, and you're certainly going to be like racking up the kilometers anyway. So it's just sort of a reward system that they have in place. So it's like Flybuys for runners. So that is another way you can save. And then also, sort of going back to the early bird thing, is if you register for early bird, then you get to the race and it feels like it's money that's already gone. So it's like you're not even really spending that money. But then you can also look at getting in with your running group, whoever that may be, and sharing accommodation rather than doing it all yourself if you are going away for something like that. And you can also look at some sites do a whole range of the fueling options quite cheaply. So I think that iHerb, you can get like shop locks for probably less than what you would spend if you are just sort of like shopping at the expo on the day. And probably the final tip is just to be patient and be willing to wait, which is hard when there's immediate gratification. But most things eventually will go on sale. And so if you're patient and you just wait for them to go on sale, you can often pick up a really good bargain that way. I mean, even like with Amazon, that thing, it's like the stock market. It goes up and down every day. I've been looking at a pair of tights on Amazon and I like them, so I was looking at them in a couple of different colors, and they both started off at around $78 US, and I waited probably about maybe a month for like one of the colors ended up going down to like $30, and so I bought it then. And then the other one, which also started at 78, it is like now down at 60. So I'm still waiting. I think it shows you on Amazon how many they have in stock. So, if I really wanted it and there was only one left, I would probably just jump in and buy it. But you can, if you are patient, and there's not a whole lot of other interest in that particular product, if you just wait, it'll go down until somebody buys it, basically. So that is another way to save a bit of money if you don't need something immediately. And one thing about sports bras, which has nothing to do with price but is just a general tip, is don't be fooled into thinking that because you are a D cup or bigger that you need an underwire bra. It's a trap, and you don't. You will be far more secure, far more supported in a non-underwire bra and far less prone to chafing. And so definitely be looking at things like moving comfort. And I did not do that for ages. I ended up having, I think I was wearing 2 bras for ages. I used to bleed after a run. It was ugly. And I just thought, there is no way that something without an underwire is going to be supportive enough. But actually it was a lot more supportive because they tend to be more molded. So definitely include that in the things that you are looking at, because you will be surprised at how much you don't actually need that underwire. And probably you're going to be loads more comfortable without it. And in the interest of early planning, from what I can gather so far in the community group, things that are on the Operation Move calendar for next year are Canberra, which is 14th, 15th of April, Warwick, which is around the 20th of May, I think, and Gold Coast, which really bothers me when it's on the 30th of June and the 1st of July. I think it should be like the weekend after, because it's weird having one in June and one in July. It's fine. I'm sure it'll be fine. And also UTA, which is also in May. And then Melbourne, which is always popular every year. So start following those places so that you can get an early bird entry. So I will be back next week, and given that it is going to be taper week before Melbourne, I will probably be back with some tips on not making yourself entirely crazy before a race and attempting to practice what I preach in the process.